Welcome back to the Music Lounge. We are here for season 2.
Can you
Right,
believe
Terry?
it? I
Yeah.
can't believe it.
We are
Wow.
already in a year and a couple weeks.
If you like listening to the show, please rate, review, like, and share the podcast so that we can continue doing this for you. And now we will jump into the guests. Today we have with us a good friend of ours from our time at MTV, Jennie Rossello, who is formerly the Senior Director of Music and Talent at MTV and currently, a huge career change, is an interior designer. And if you're looking for an interior designer in the Fort Lauderdale or greater Miami area, check out The Decorist. Welcome, Jennie.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Jenny.
Nice to be here.
Thank you for
If
taking the
someone wanted
time.
a house change in New York, would you be able to work some things out, or are you really just focusing on? I guess it depends on the budget, right? You would go anywhere for a budget, right?
I mean, I think we would all go anywhere for a budget. No, but I would take upon that hard job of traveling to the city for some delightful interior design work if given
Yeah.
the opportunity. So yeah,
Cool.
I'm here
Have
for
to
you.
check out your work.
Yeah, for
Haven't
sure.
seen you in a long time. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure. I
We're
love this
gonna
little reunion. It's going to be fun to look back.
Well, here's the fun thing about this is that, you know, and we say this every podcast, or at least I do, is that, we all had our time there was so special that
Mhm.
we all have this connection that it doesn't matter how long you don't see somebody for, that you just jump right back into the feelings that you had when you were working with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it has been incredible for me to reconnect with so many people from our time at MTV. And we haven't even really scratched the surface of the amount of people that we could have as guests on the podcast. So it has been life changing for me to kind of do this. So thank you.
Well, let me just tell you, by the same token, when I saw your names pop up in my email, I was just awash with warmth and joy because I mean, you're right. I think it was so much a part of who we were for such a critical part of our lives and such an interesting time in music that it's almost like its own lifetime, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it's like my moniker used to be Jennie from MTV. I don't know if anyone knew my last name. I think they knew Jennie from MTV and maybe a warm like blue glow from our two-way pagers as my face. But you know, it's funny now being in a different stage of life and doing different things, living somewhere else. It's like another world that we had, and it's like a special space that we all shared. So I'm really happy to be here and see you guys and just look back
Thank
a little
you.
bit. Yeah.
During your time at MTV in the Music and Talent Department, I believe you focused mostly on MTV2, booking talent, label relations, programming, scheduling. What was your career path to MTV? And was it always your dream to work in music and at MTV?
Well, I think maybe like most people, we all took a circuitous, rather kooky route to MTV because I mean, you know, when I was coming up, there was no I'm gonna study and get a job at MTV or I'm gonna, you know, figure out how to work at MTV. I watched MTV every day right before General Hospital when I got home from, you know, school and stuff, but I went to college in New York. I studied architecture. I realized finishing my degree that I was going to have to get a job, and I decided it wasn't going to be in architecture because there were like too many. I don't know. It was just dominated by certain vibes, and I didn't want to live my life like moving a bathroom wall an inch. And so I just switched gears. And still needing that job, I went to what used to be called a career services office at my school, and there was this like random page as in not a digital page, but like a paper page for an internship at MTV. And I thought, oh, well, okay, I studied architecture and like that's about like creating spaces and moving through different, maybe I'm just going to start making videos. I don't know. You know, so I went for an interview with a very eccentric woman who was somewhat involved in fashion. And I got a job at this place called House of Style at MTV. And that's where they threw me in. So when I started at MTV, it wasn't anything like I'd imagined, because I was basically Cindy Crawford's intern. I got the smoothies, and I took clothes all over the city in New York City cabs, hoping not to leave anything behind.
That's pretty amazing, though, to be like
Yeah.
an intern to Cindy Crawford, who was probably like the
Iconic.
biggest model at that
That
time.
year as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no, she was spectacular, and also very nice and polite, with perfect teeth, super smart. And and that was my entree into MTV, and also the culture around MTV, which had pretty far-reaching tentacles,
so not
culturally.
dating us, but what year was that?
That
when you-
was 1995.
Oh wow, okay.
So I started as an intern at 1995, and then I worked in House of Style at MTV for a couple of years for the executive producer, whose name was Elisa Bellatini, who was at
After
the
your
time
internship.
after, yeah, the internship turned into a
Okay.
paid job, thank God, paid
Nice.
the rent,
Good.
all good. And after learning a little bit about all the different things that happened in that building at 1515 Broadway, I realized I wanted to work in the music department. And so when the first opportunity came up, I jumped in and started as an assistant in music, for Louis Largent.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was very rock and roll, and he was pretty epic, and came from the world of radio, and um, just started us on the roller coaster that was the start of my time in the music department.
So this was M2 at the time, right?
This was still MTV, and so this was before the launch of
MTV.
all of our digital networks. Yeah, so when
even M2.
Even M2. So yeah, I was there for, the birth of M2. I remember when we all started to get to take rotations on scheduling, knowing full well that our music choices were going to be populated into the universe, and feeling like a little bit of a backstage DJ, even as a lowly assistant starting under Louis Largent. But it was just a great opportunity, because that was, as you know, the birth of all of these digital spaces and platforms on top of MTV, which became M2, and then MTV2, and then MTVX, and MTVU. And
How did you make the move to MTV2 from working with Louis?
Well, I got promoted. And just kind of moved up the ladder. And I think as more programming opportunity became available, they needed more people to run it.
Mm-hmm.
But as was consistent with my time at MTV, it almost felt like you could create your own path.
Right.
I mean, because
Right.
so much of it was just beginning, at least on the digital front.
Yep.
You got to write your own story and do jobs that weren't necessarily part of any kind of a job description.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
When I was hired in the department, we relaunched MTV Hits, and it was just really me and Emilian.
Yeah.
And after a while, because every programmer has their own finesse and way of doing things, like if I programmed an amazing block of videos, she would have a completely different block of videos, but both would be right.
Right.
So once she liked my style, it was almost a one-man show. And again, that wasn't part of my job description, but it was a lane that I fell into, and you have a lot more freedom and to experiment and try things. So I can imagine at MTV2 as well, you were kind of given that freedom to experiment and put your own taste on it, and hopefully the audience resonates, right?
I think, yeah, there was a lot of freedom, and I think as we were becoming who we were, and as the channels were becoming what they were, we all fell into new spaces pretty fluidly, and I think I went from working for Louis, who's very strictly like music programming, to working with Michelle Dix, who was a little bit more on the programming and development side. And in that time, there was not only music programming, but also shows and concepts and platforms that were also starting to like become the building blocks of these new networks.
when you were given more responsibility, was there an artist or a show concept or a booking that you were like, holy shit, like I really did this from, creation through execution?
Mm-hmm.
And is there kind of one big thing that stands out in your legacy?
Yeah, my legacy. I think, like I said, we were all given the freedom to like dream, right?
Yeah.
So all of us loving music as we did, I remember getting like really into like mashups. Mashups was like a really big deal for, the beginning at the start. There were all these cool mashups happening.
Yeah.
People would like pull up the Beatles albums and Jay-Z albums and all of these cool like, marriages that happened. So I actually worked really hard to pitch an idea to do some kind of a mashups situation on air, which at the time took shape because I worked with Michelle Megan Dix, who was like epic and, was a sort of development genius, still is. And working with her, that turned into Jay-Z and Linkin Park Collision Course performance, which for me was magic, because then we got to watch it live. I think they produced an album out of it, and that album went on to win a Grammy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We've
that's,
heard that story a couple times, but it's interesting to hear it
yeah.
from your point of view, that you're almost the brainchild of that. And I'm sure an idea mixed
Mhm.
with a little
Executive
brainstorm sesh
know-how.
with
Yeah.
Michelle just
Yeah.
kind of elevated, from an idea. So
And we have also heard from many people about how great Michelle is and her vision and her ability to sort of craft something that is both unique and what everybody wants to see at the same
Yeah.
time. And also her attention to detail. We've asked her to be a guest on the show. She has politely declined, but maybe if we put together a little reel of everybody talking about her, she'll want to do the show at
Well, I
some
can
point.
attest to that. She is, she also had a certain grace with artists, a certain comfort, so that when the rest of us saw Jay-Z walking through the hall and our stomachs were in our throats because here you are in front of this like huge superstar. I'm not sweating. I'm cool. I'm totally cool. You know what I mean? Like she just was able to just smile and laugh and have humor and grace and be able to host that moment with as much ease that you would only dream of having after all of the things that she made happen for these networks. So, you know, there was a lot of joy and opportunity that I had working with Michelle, and she became a very dear friend. And we had a lot of great ideas that I think saw the air that I can only like tell my kids about now. And they're like, wait, what? Who?
I would imagine that as a parent, it is hard because, first of all, most kids today think of MTV as a legacy network, if they think of it at all.
Yeah.
It must be very difficult to take them to a time and a place where MTV, and again, we've said this many times, was the tastemaker in pop culture. It
Yeah.
was, you learned about music at MTV. You learned about culture at MTV. You learned about,
Fashion.
celebrities and fashion and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
MTV was the go-to place at that time to find out about something,
Mhm.
pre-internet, pre-social media.
if my kids didn't know that I worked there and heard me talk about it, I wonder what their perception of MTV, and they'll probably be like, oh, I've heard of that, or I
Mhm.
recognize the logo. Like, I don't think they've ever watched it. They watch a lot of Love Island and all that bullshit, but they watch it, everything's on streaming. So I don't
Right.
think they're
Yeah.
really connected to a network like MTV. It's almost like I'm not going to tune in for a specific show. People just tuned in to MTV.
Well, even telling your kids that you had to tune into a cable network to watch a music video.
I know.
You
Yeah.
didn't even have that on demand.
Right. at a
which is
certain time
on your
because you knew
phone.
it was premiering.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I want to watch alternative videos. I have to watch Subterranean or 120 minutes, and it's
Right.
only on at this time.
Midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which
I'm
is
gonna set
crazy
my
to think.
VCR.
Exactly. No, I know. And I do remember, like, I think the first time that shift hit me was probably, and this is probably incredibly late, but things happened so fast, so, so much so that when Justin Bieber came around, and I remember he was discovered online,
Right.
and
Yeah.
there was this cultural shift that I saw happening at that moment where it was no longer like A&R guys or girls going out to a club and discovering a talent and scouring the world for these like gems, but these gems being on the internet, readily available, and now any old person could be that A&R like executive and find that talent or put it out there
Listen, I mean, the fact that Scooter Braun, who was an intern at
at
MTV,
MTV.
was able to find this kid and create a multi-million, if not billion-dollar company off of the back of what he did with this kid,
Mm-hmm.
and then grew his empire from there, is a pretty amazing story. I mean, and
Yeah.
that would never have happened
Yeah.
had it not been Justin not have posted videos on YouTube for Scooter to see. Getting back to MTV2, I believe you were working on it when it sort of launched.
Mm-hmm.
So it was music videos and music programming 24/7. As the channel grew, how did the programming and artist bookings change, and what was your role in that?
I think in the beginning, nobody really knew what was happening with these digital channels. And we all kind of were like the younger siblings to Big Brother MTV. So we were lucky to be in the same room, in a way. I think in the beginning, every time something was booked for MTV, we would all kind of like do a little proverbial huddle and be like, okay, can I get 10 minutes with this one? Can I get 10 minutes with
Yeah.
this one? Or while you're booking, while you're talking to him or her or them, can you ask these questions that I'm going to now take and, fashion into my own segment on MTV2 or on MTV Hits or on MTVU. So we all kind of got a little piece of the pie because we're all working in the same room anyway, right? So, I mean, I think it took some time for artists to take it seriously even, but after seeing the different bents and the different opportunities and the different roads that we could travel, once MTV was full force into the world of programming, reality TV, et cetera, there were these avenues that they could take to like just experience music in a different way.
Well,
Yeah.
the other nice part about that is that you also were able to open up the MTV universe to artists who might not necessarily be ready for MTV proper. Like
Right.
MTV2 took chances on artists, and MTVU and Hits and MTV.com took chances on artists who were developing, who were brand new,
Mm-hmm.
who hadn't, they may not have had a big audience yet, and were willing to give them an opportunity, whether it was video programming or performances or interviews or whatever it was, to sort of um, build up themselves within the sort of the MTV universe. There's a lot of stuff that I know that you guys championed that eventually became like a huge MTV staple at some point. There's and honestly, I think that like Sucker Free was something that it gave a profile to so many hip hop and rap artists that they were not probably going to be able to get on MTV, at least in that amount of programming that you guys had.
Yeah, and Sucker
Yeah,
Free Sunday, like I actually programmed that block, and I was in charge of overseeing the talent and music for Sucker Free Sunday. I mean, I remember when it first was born, and there was this whole discussion about should we call it Sucker Free Sunday or Sucka Free Sunday, and I'm like, I think you have to stick with Sucker. Yeah. I think you got to stick with the ER because you're not really pulling off the necessarily. Like let's keep it like, official. But it was great to be able to work with exclusively like hip hop and R&B talent. You know,
You get lucky when a franchise becomes a
mhm,
brand
yeah,
and people just know those two words or that name, sucker free. And it's like, rap caviar on Spotify. It's like
right. Or it
it
was like the old
becomes
school,
more, it's
yeah,
a cultural
hmm,
brand versus a music block of videos and interviews. And that can
100%.
only live on MTV2. And then you get like, whoa, MTV's now going to try and take a block and brand it MTV2's sucker free on MTV, right? So when a brand becomes bigger than the channel, or
Right.
almost, it's pretty amazing.
Sucker Free Sunday was awesome, and I think it not only let us, dive into the world of hip hop and R&B in an exclusive way, um, but we also started to change what programming looked like. Short
Mhm.
form content. Like nobody ever
Yeah.
talked about breaking that, 30-minute, 24 to 30-minute block and like putting this is where, the breaks go and the commercials are going to be, as you guys know well and good. I think we were able to like bust these ideas of what programming looked like,
Yeah,
um, which is kind of a big deal back in the day, and
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
thinking
And
about,
now everyone's short form.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I remember when I did a takeover on MTV Hits. I forget who
Hmm,
the artist was, but LA Reid saw it, and I think
hmm,
America Montez was probably the Island Def Jam rep, and she came and she
yeah,
was like, "LA wants this for X artist."
amazing.
When you kind of get the recognition of signing on a digital channel that now a major label wants to impact a new artist. It was probably he wanted it for Rihanna. I think that was the artist, but I forget
Wow.
who we had it for. And we just built that in to part of the plan. Yes, MTV's going to support a certain way. MTV Hits now has a big takeover.
Right.
So what you were saying was artists getting booked on MTV. I think, we're really trying to think about how we can create a really unique piece of programming takeover with the same artist that works on MTV. And, that's we were in such a creative mindset that
Yeah.
we could really flip the switch with a same artist and
And I
create
think,
a totally different piece of programming.
and I also think we operated in that sort of, as we called it back then, the 360 programming model and the
Hmm.
Yeah,
multi-platform programming model,
That's
where
right.
you could have so many pieces of content with one artist on so many different platforms or channels. And it just, again, as MTV had fewer and fewer music video hours, the other platforms, channels, digital channels, all kind of stepped up and were able to sort of give. And it wasn't like everything had the ratings that MTV had, but you add it all together, and
yeah,
it was a big offering that you gave to a lot of these artists. And especially like at MTV.com, as we were sort of, more people were starting to have access to a computer, and the internet was, it wasn't, everything wasn't a dial up anymore. And, people could watch videos there. It was a big deal that MTV offered all of these different things for artists to be able to do. I know that anyone can stream anything they want to now, but that's only one platform that you're going to be on at a time. Whereas MTV, the universe of MTV was so multidimensional.
Yeah. The real estate was endless
Yeah.
yeah.
and
I'd like to shout out,
simultaneous, like you said. Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to shout out Paul De Benedettis from programming, who I had the privilege of working in his team for 3 years. Who I think we have to get him on the show. Kind of came up with the 360 multi-platform concept that went company wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were
He,
visionary
even Paul,
concepts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's just common programming now, to take programming across different screens.
Well, it's funny because you see, like, if you're watching network television and you see an ad for a show that's on CBS, or like you can watch on CBS or Paramount Plus. Like
Right.
it's all like that's how they're promoting themselves now. So
True that. Yeah.
So Jenny,
Mm.
what was the first concert that you went to?
You mean in my life?
Yeah.
Oh, first concert I ever went to was Guns N' Roses.
Oh,
wow.
epic.
In the Orange Bowl in Florida, and my mom took me because she knew I was like really into this band, and then she was horrified because everybody around us was smoking weed.
Right.
And then she went to security and tried to tell them, I am with my 13-year-old daughter, and there are people smoking marijuana. And she's like, are you gonna see them out of the stadium? And he's like, ma'am, with all due respect, if we did that to all the people smoking weed, the stadium would be empty.
Yeah,
And that was like
fun.
a reality check for my mom. And I was just like, oh my God, the embarrassment. But yeah,
Absolutely.
Amazing first concert. That's great.
that was
What
my
was the
first
Now,
first?
concert.
here's a question though.
Yeah.
If you took your 13-year-old to a concert and people
Hmm.
were smoking weed, what would you do?
Not a thing. I would answer any questions they had about why it smelled so funky, and then I would just enjoy the concert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. What was the first album you bought or owned or had in your possession?
I think the first couple of albums that I really, or the couple of artists that I really got into, this is going to sound weird, but definitely Duran Duran. Also, John Taylor was kind of in my mind going to be my husband someday. So Duran Duran and Belle Biv DeVoe.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, that was my happy space, sort of like alternative British pop rock and R&B, smoothed out on an R&B tip, hip hop. Yeah, yeah, that
I
was
think
my
the
happy
first
place.
album I bought, Brian Ferry's Roxy Music.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I could see that. And
Yeah.
Perry.
My first, it was Men at Work.
It's a good one. Listen, I have to tell you, I am very, very proud of myself because I've imbued in my children a strong admiration and love of 80s music. So
Mhm.
I feel like, as a parent, I've done a pretty good job there. So yeah,
It's classic.
it is classic.
It will never not be amazing.
Yeah,
So
Now
it's good.
the 2000s are falling under that classic era to our kids.
2000s.
Yeah.
I know. It's so
Uh,
throwback.
do you have a favorite artist now? A new artist?
I don't know if I'd say new. I think the last artist I fell in love with truly was probably The Weeknd, and
Okay.
he's not really new at all.
Yeah. I went to see The Weeknd a couple weeks ago
Oh, really?
at a MetLife.
Oh, wow, big one.
And the whole time I was there, I was like, next time I come here, I'm seeing Oasis. It was a great show.
That's amazing.
Really cool. Do you have a favorite piece that you still own of MTV memorabilia or any swag?
I do. I have a little it's almost like a little booklet. And it was illustrated by Todd Oldham, who is a designer. Because when I was at House of Style in the birth of my career at MTV, we produced a show called Fashionably Loud. And that was
Yeah.
like a new thing. It was gorgeous models, men and women, walking the runway to performances of live music. And when we put on this show, we had all kinds of swag, but this little booklet was handed out as like a little a small narrative around the birth of Fashionably Loud, and it had his doodles, and he was one of the first designers whose work the models were wearing while walking the runway to the music being performed. And that also was the first time I had the opportunity to write copy. So even when I wrote copy there, and I worked in the music department for Lewis or for Michelle, I I was always given the opportunity when it was time for the Video Music Awards to write copy. So I switched gears and was
I
no longer
remember
like
that. Yeah.
booking talent. Yeah, I was writing in
Yeah.
the room with all the fun writers. And that was a special time. You
Nice.
know, it was like a little break from my regular life, and then I could just put on a different hat. Why? Because we had all this freedom, and
Yeah.
nobody said we couldn't.
That's like when I was an assistant for Paul D. I used to work with Kathy Flynn and do the seating for talent during VMAs and
Yeah.
movie awards, and it wasn't part of my job, but I got to do that for those couple weeks, and
Hmm.
it was fun. Yeah, it was a nice break from the norm.
Exactly.
Do you have a
Exactly.
favorite work trip that you
Well,
went
um,
on?
trip. I took a lot of trips. Wow. I took a lot of trips personally because of our work at MTV. I followed Radiohead around Europe for a while,
Mm,
um, with a tight knit bunch of friends. But maybe my favorite work trip was going to Scotland. Yeah, we did a trip with Moby, performing on New Year's Eve in Scotland, and I just remember thinking, well, number one, I had to buy hiking boots for the first time, which was not in my normal repertoire, but that was just the kind of freedom and fantastical situation that you get working at MTV.
So
I
you
mean,
booked that show? Was there a question that, who would get to go? It was just obvious that you owned that relationship and booking, and you were
it was
just
just,
going.
yeah, it was an MTV2 thing, and I
Right.
was flying to Scotland,
Yeah.
and
Book my
God
travel.
rest her soul, Elisa Bellatini, my first boss at House of Style, would be horrified. I just have to bring up to buy these boots. Um, she would, but it was part of the whole wear a lot of hats, wear a lot of
Yeah.
boots vibe, you know, for MTV. So it's probably
Nice.
my favorite.
Um, is there any other artist story that puts a staple on your time at MTV?
You know, it's funny. I remember when we were in that phase of being, grateful for all the bookings with all the digital platforms. I don't know if this story should make the cut, but I will tell you.
We can talk
It's-
about the edit after.
okay, that's up to you. But I remember having Kanye West, and
Okay.
he was doing some stuff for MTV too, and he got really upset about something. I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I remember having to like go into a car with him and listen to all the reasons that we sucked. And so that was I wouldn't say that was a defining moment of my career, but I think I felt lucky to be able to work with so many people. I told myself that when I worked with Prince, that I would be done, that would be the pinnacle of my career, that I wouldn't work at MTV anymore because there would be nothing left for me to do because I would have seen it all and done it all and been everywhere. Um, so that being said, I never actually worked with Prince, but the last time I saw him was, I think, Irving Plaza
Oh,
in New York. Um, and it was, I think he went on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, and that was just fine because everyone was going to wait for it
Yeah.
because it was Prince. And, yeah, he went on at like 3 in the morning. He played for a couple of hours. And then I just remember going to like the local diner after the show for breakfast and then going home and collapsing. But yeah, I think my time at MTV could be encapsulated by knowing that I could come in when I wanted to come in. Our work days did not start at 8 o'clock or 8:30, or at least ours didn't.
Yeah.
Because we would be out so late and be living our jobs so long that it's just kind of indefinable.
Almost didn't feel like work at some
No.
point. Like it was just life. It was your life. It was your culture.
is there an artist today that you would go out to see at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Who?
I think I would still go out to see Radiohead at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm a big
and
Radiohead fan.
yeah,
And we
it's
had
hard.
Jeff Frank on, who was involved in the $2 bill, and
Oh
that
yeah.
was probably one of my top three Radiohead shows. I saw them
Oh,
at the Hollywood Bowl and the Santa Barbara Bowl as well. That
wow.
was very special. That was a good time.
And they never repeat a set. Every
Right.
single set is different.
Yeah.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, they have their archives are so deep.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of content.
So, after MTV, you
Mm-hmm.
worked in the music business for a while. I know that you were at Island Def Jam,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were at MTV in marketing for a bit.
I was doing MTV Scratch, which
Okay.
was, yeah, that sort of a think tank slash um advertising adjacent group working at MTV to capitalize on our relationships with artists to bring in revenue
Oh,
for, yeah, for MTV.
and,
So,
and then you made a couple of major changes. You
mhm.
moved to Florida. You pivoted into interior design. Sort of, what was the impetus behind the career change? And did anything that you did at MTV influence what you're doing now?
Sure. I mean, working at MTV, as we've talked about, it wasn't just music, right? It was music, it was culture, it was it was speed, it was fashion, it was everything. And it was what we lived, and that was our lives, and it didn't always feel like work. And I think sitting at your computer thinking about ideas for shows, thinking about copy, thinking about a title for a segment, thinking about who are you going to book, thinking about what music was going to go into a block of time. These are all layers of just how we lived. And I never went into MTV thinking about exactly what my job was going to be. And coming out of MTV, I think I was still the same person, just looking to create beautiful moments, and this is sort of a full circle time because I studied architecture. I worked in New York at MTV. I did lots of iterations of jobs there, as we've discussed. And coming to Florida, I sort of just returned back to my roots. And I still use a lot of rock and roll to design. I still use a lot of soulful R&B to create moments, right? So you just want to make something special happen so that when you walk into a space, you just feel happy,
Yeah. I think
you know?
we learn a skill set that
Yeah.
becomes part of our DNA, and it doesn't matter what we go into. We just pull certain attributes from the way we work with people, the way we build relationships, the way we have that kind of bird's eye view on a project, how we brainstorm, how we execute. It could really
Hmm.
be translated into so many different industries. So
Well, and I think that's you hit on it too. It's like something special we had generationally because you said it's relational,
yeah,
and we all had to relate and we all like lived together and went to shows together and ate together and hoteled together. And we have these relationships.
yeah,
Like Perry said when we first started, you can pick up the phone and it's just like this special time because you all shared so much together. But I think it's that skill in knowing how to relate that kind of carries us into different times in our lives that we had at MTV as,
yeah.
as our start. So,
It's like our kids today, and the
yeah.
generation today can't have a conversation. They can text, but if you try and get them to write an email or talk to someone in person, they're very,
Hmm.
they don't have that ease of, having that in-person interaction,
Right. Like just a human intimacy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. I think it's, maybe it'll be our one, fail
yeah.
safe from
And I'm to
the
blame. And,
AI takeover.
I, yeah, I feel like that too. I get to a point where, everything I do is on text and email. It's like,
Hmm.
God, if you have an in person, but I've really missed that office environment that we grew up with.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID, everything's been at home. I've been dying to get back to an office. You just end up working from home and
Well,
you meet.
I also think that environment breeds creativity too,
Mm-hmm.
because it is, you have people to bounce ideas off of, because someone says something and someone else thinks of something else to add to that, and then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until you're like, that's a show idea, or that's a award show idea, or that's, a music block that we can do, or whatever it is. It's just, it is, I think that's sort of what's being lost a little bit today also, is that the ability to sort of create in a group environment.
I think you're right, and it's like a natural thing. I remember walking down the hall and going into Yomi's office, for example. It wouldn't be planned. You just needed a break. You needed just a break, and you wanted to sit on someone's couch or whatever. But something like that would be the catalyst for clarity. You would have an idea that came out of that conversation without even intending that it happened that way.
Exactly.
And that's why, now, even if you connect everybody onto a screen and you have these group meetings, it's planned. You may be successful or not coming out of it with a solution or an idea, but like when it's organic and you're in person and you walk around the corner and it just happens, it's a gift.
There was a lot. I mean, you spent your whole day bouncing around people's offices and going in here and, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So we end our podcast. We've had a great time. I feel like we could go on forever and ever, but we like to ask our guests their favorite New York City venue at your time at MTV. It could be a venue, the best show you've seen. What do you got?
I think I would have to say it would either be Webster Hall or Irving Plaza. I actually like the smaller venues. It felt like you got in a little bit closer, and with a tighter group who really, really wanted to be there, as opposed to the really large shows. I mean, I still have PTSD from MSG, to the point that I would rather leave a show early or leave an event early. Yeah, like I think I remember seeing Coldplay in a small venue, and like Gwyneth Paltrow was there at the time, and you just like, why are these things so close? They're just, you just have these moments in these small venues that are, invaluable.
Yeah. It's almost like, whenever you went to Bowery, I love Bowery, but that felt so industry.
Yeah.
But when you went to Webster Hall, you felt like you were just surrounded by the people and the fans.
Yeah, it's like the 930 Club in DC. You get this like really just cool, smaller fan base of intensity, and it's just like you're in a private meeting with your favorite artist, and it's not like this big scene. It's just this like quiet little secret that you get to share for a few hours with, I don't know, 1,500 people.
I remember seeing Cage the Elephant downstairs at Webster Hall.
That's amazing.
I think it was an MTV taping.
That was a tiny space.
It was.
Downstairs,
yeah. Absolutely.
They renovated it a couple years ago, the whole building. Well, probably at least 5+ years ago now, but
I think they would have called me, but I don't have a commercial license. I just have a residential license. So I didn't do that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Brooklyn Paramount is a nice venue now too. I've never been there. But yeah, it's an iconic looking building. It's pretty amazing.
Oh.
Looks like a converted opera house, or it reminds me of a bigger Radio City where there's those pockets on the balcony that look like private boxes, but it's all on a wraparound, but you'll have your own little viewing box.
It's very civilized.
Where I live, so it has to be a special band to make the trek to Brooklyn.
Radio City was gorgeous, though. Radio City was definitely. We had VMAs there. It was just it was really very, very sexy venue.
Yeah, I like that, and they have such a diverse roster of artists. Like I've seen Interpol there, and I've seen Lady Gaga, and I've seen a Cirque du Soleil, and the last time I was there was Ricky Gervais.
Oh my God. I
Oh, it's
love
like
him.
everything, and obviously the Christmas, the rockets, right?
The Rockettes, yeah. Do you remember
The
when Lady
rockets.
Gaga came to the music lounge wearing meat? So it was
Yeah.
recycled meat. Even
Oh.
pretty, really pretty. Yeah. It's so
It
nice
went
seeing
by
your
really
face,
fast.
much like our youth.
Yeah, yeah, too fast, too fast.
So, well, thank you
All right.
again. We really appreciate it. And again, to anybody who is watching or listening, please rate, review, like, and share the podcast so that we can get more people listening and we can create more episodes.
And we'll
Absolutely.
see you all next week.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Okay.